And good evening, all. Welcome again after a nice week off. Obviously, we've got Ashley. How are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Tired. Exhausted. Nah, but I'm actually good. It says it's same shit, different day, isn't it? But as long as we're here, we're grateful. We keep kicking ass. Yeah. Then obviously we've got Nick. How are you?
Yes. Feels like a long week, but always good to be in the show. Nice end for a week being in the show.
Absolutely. Well, we're on tomorrow, so it's not the end of the week. So, and Ashley's already on about skiving tomorrow. It's not happening. And then obviously we've got the guest tonight, Derrick McManus. How are you?
I am sensational. Absolutely sensational. Thank you.
Hey, at least you're sensational like us. But it's all right. So, before we discuss the topic tonight, give us a little bit of insight who Derrick is.
Yeah, Derrick. I'm, as we were discussing just a moment ago, born in Scotland, so I'm in a different country down under in Australia. I was a police officer for 42 years here, and I have 4 children. I am a little bit active. On last weekend, I rode 214 kilometres on my push bike. So a little bit active, like to stay fit. When I was a police officer, I was operating in what we call STAR Group, and that is Special Task and Rescue Groups, STAR Group. High risk arrest, hostage siege, counter-terrorism, all those exciting things. Helicopter operations, when the Queen came to visit, we were the VIP security, the close quarter security to her. Cave rescue, mine rescue, all those sorts of operations, all the stuff that I absolutely love. My mother has a different opinion of them, but I love them. I am now so old that I'm retired, but still loving life.
That's brilliant. So tonight we are discussing resilience, durability, and sustainable optimal performance. Bit of a mouthful, especially for Ashley. But she's gonna kill me. So what? Obviously, Derrick, you brought up this title, so give us a little bit of insight why you wanted to choose this from your experience.
So without going into the experience, because we'll get to that very shortly, resilience, in my opinion, is the ability to bounce back, and it's a very, very important skill for people to have. But resilience is something you have to wait for something to go wrong so that you can then implement your resilience skills and bounce back. That's the general concept of resilience. Durability is the ability to sustain optimal performance. Durability is the ability to anticipate what is going to happen, know what the signs are that tell you it's either going well or it's going badly, and then having a plan in place to respond immediately so you can either absolutely alleviate the issue altogether and not have it, or know exactly what to do when it happens so that you can keep on going. And sustaining optimal performance is very different to peak performance. Okay, optimal performance is the very best you can possibly do in a given circumstance, and optimal performance is sustainable. Peak performance is not sustainable. Peak performance is a peak for a reason, and it's generally one reason. You are focused on that one issue. Everything else is put aside so you can achieve this peak performance here. So if you're a peak performance at work, your family's over there, your health is over there, your sport, your community, all those things, you're focused here, and you cannot sustain peak performance. Okay, we need to be able to achieve it every now and then, but we can't sustain it. So in given circumstances, we need to be able to sustain optimal performance. And optimal is a very compassionate look at peak, because optimal is the best you can do, but it's in the given circumstances, and it needs to be sustainable. What's the very best you can continue to do in a given circumstance?
Nick, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, I admit that the only one I'm really familiar with was resilience, and I think it's a bit of quite a word that's very sort of popular, like a buzzword. The other two sort of words, the phrases I wasn't so familiar with, but it makes sense what you're saying. I guess that, yeah, I mean, resilience, in particular, I think, it's such a key skill nowadays more than ever. We lead, and I think increasingly we live in an increasingly stressful world and a world of uncertainty with, our job situations, jobs less secure to used to be, and financially, and the world politics, and I think there's so much going on that our lives are and we have to be able to cope with potential changes and challenges. I think requires a lot of skills and resilience. So yeah, I think it's something that really is a key thing we need to talk about more. I think everyone needs to develop those skills more. Something I need to develop more. I guess one question for Derrick is how much can you prepare, for resilience? Is it a skill? Is it something you can prepare for? Because you can't. I think a lot of the times things happen, and they're unexpected. The challenging times are when things happen, and that catch you out. You're not ready. So how much resilience has been prepared for things?
Absolutely. I work on. I've created a continuum of durability.
Sure.
And so the concept of that continuum is that we always, if you start something brand new, whether it's a new job, a new sport, a new relationship, no matter what it is, you're always a little bit fragile when you start. And fragile is new, learning. We're not sure exactly what we're doing. We're experimenting and we're avoiding risks. We're new, okay? And picture this as a new job. You're going into that new job. You don't know exactly what you're doing, but you want to learn. You're keen, you're eager. And if you're keen and eager, you will learn how to do the job to the point where you will get to resilient, because you've learned so much. You now know how to fix the problems when they start. And that resilient, once you know how to fix the problems that you're going through, you're still experimenting kind of, but you're a little bit more relaxed. You're a little bit more confident. You have some self-assurance because you go, oh, I can relax now because if something goes wrong, I know how to fix it. I don't have to go and ask. Nobody needs to teach me anymore. But you're still waiting for things to go wrong. And so you are still waiting to respond to an incident. Now, if you move along that continuum further, you become the master of your craft. You become the best of the best in whatever skill that is, whatever job you have. And that is when you can be proactive, you can be prepared, you can be insightful. You know what the signs are that things are going to go wrong, and you're already there. I can see that's going to go wrong. We should be doing this. That's going to go wrong, don't you? But what happens when we get to that point of durability is that we then go, I'm bored now. I know how to do this so well. I want to take on another challenge. And so when we take on another challenge is when we start going back into resilience zone, because when we go on to another challenge, we slide back along that continuum. So we go back to a little bit resilient. So we start out as fragile, we move to resilient, then we move to durable, we take on another challenge, and then we go back to being a little bit resilient again. The easiest way to envisage this is if you start a new sport, say tennis. Never played tennis before, pick up a tennis racket. You're very fragile. You don't know exactly what you're doing. You get coaching, you get guidance, you get a little bit of mentoring, and you start becoming not too bad, and you become middle of the road in D grade tennis, right? So now you're resilient. And when things go wrong, you're able to respond to it. You're able to play games. You win a few, you lose a few, but then you become the best of the best in tennis in your D grade. And what happens when you become the best of the best? You go up into C grade. And when you go into C grade, you're no longer the best of the best. You're sort of middle of the road, right? Maybe you'll go back to fragile depending on what you're taking on. But if you're really keen and eager, you will learn, you'll get your coaching, you'll get your mentoring, you'll move along, you'll become the best of the best in C grade. and then you go up to B grade, and you're no longer the best of the best in B grade, you go back to resilient. It's the same process we go through in our jobs. When you start a new job, you'll come in, you'll be a little bit fragile, you'll get to know what you're doing, you become not too bad, people will be coming to you and saying, what do I do? How do I do this? That's when you know you're resilient. And resilient, being able to solve problems, is a good place to be. It's something we need to be really proud of. But we all want to be at that point where we are the master of our craft and we're able to go to work and go, I can relax now. I can enjoy my job. I love being here because you know what you're doing. Now, if you picture this with your podcast, when you first started doing your podcasts, it's like, oh my gosh, are we really going to do this? Are we going to be okay? Will we know what to say? Will people like us? Then you sort of go, oh, I've got this. Now you've done so many of them, you're kind of relaxed. You're able to lay back like Adam is and just go, I've got this. We can do this lying on my side. Absolutely. But that concept applies to every part of our life. Okay. And that model of durability, that point where we go, I can relax, is the point where everybody wants to get to. If you remember the explosion of chemicals in the port of Beirut back in 2020, massive explosion. There was 3,000 kilograms of chemicals stored in a shed on the dock, and it exploded. I think there were something like 150 people killed and 300 people injured. The Lebanese government and the media were all saying, the Lebanese people, they're resilient. They'll be able to bounce back from this. We've had invasions over the years. We've had political uprisings. We've had all this stuff happen to the Lebanese people. This is not too bad. We will be able to bounce back from it. There was a lady I heard interviewed, and I think she was actually interviewed on the BBC. And she said, I'm tired of being resilient. I just want to be able to enjoy my life. And that's the point we all want to get to. And I call that durability. It's the sustained optimal performance. You are able to relax in the midst of everything.
So my question is, before obviously I'm going to pick on the comment you put on my post earlier today, and then obviously get Ashley to probably go on a rant because she likes going on rants about resilience, durability, and even adversity, because I know adversity comes into this as well. So when have you ever not had resilience?
Oh, there's lots of times in my life where I've not had resilience. Do you want to go to my key story for this, or just other aspects of my life?
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat the comment you put on my post so then you can?
Yeah, please.
And these two. Yeah. Right. Well, he put, I'm going to discuss how I was shot 14 times and how, with multiple massive life-threatening injuries, my mindset got me through the 3 hours lying on the ground, and how that has now led to the development of the philosophy of sustained optimal performance and human durability.
Wow, I want to know more.
That's an eye catcher.
It is an eye catcher. It's certainly a sound grab, isn't it? So, operating in Star Group, high risk arrest, hostage siege, counter-terrorism. We were trained to take on the worst of the worst. We went out to arrest a guy here in South Australia in Barossa Valley, which is one of our classic wine regions. And it's a fair way from the city. We went out there. We knew that he didn't want to be arrested. And he made it very clear that he didn't want to be arrested when he started shooting. We rocked up at the house. We knocked on the front door. We called. He didn't answer. We had a sniper in the bush watching the house, watching him. So we knew he was inside. I moved down the side of the house to make an assessment of a door, see whether we could make an entry through that. And as I got to within about 2 feet of that door, he started shooting, and I was his target. He was using a 7.62 or 308 rifle, which is a Chinese military rifle. The bullets used were the same the Chinese use when they go to war. I was hit 14 times. I had a a broken left forearm and a severed artery in my left forearm. I had a severed artery in my right wrist. I had 2 bullets in my stomach, 2 bullets in my left thigh, 3 bullets across the back of my left calf. 1 went through my right Achilles tendon. 1 went through my behind my right knee, and 3 bullets hit me that didn't actually penetrate into my body, but they were good solid hits. One of them hit a ceramic plate on my chest, and from all the details we know from the manufacturers, getting hit in the ceramic plate is like getting hit with a sledgehammer. So the bruising behind it would have been massive. Another bullet hit a piece of equipment on my left thigh, stopped a 3rd penetration there. And the last one hit a part of the flat vest that we call the groin flap. It just pulls down to protect the femoral arteries, but it also protects all that other stuff down there as well. And there was a very solid hit in that groin flap, but the bullet stayed in the groin flap. So I count that as a hit as well. But when I got shot 14 times, I had never, ever experienced it before in my life. And what happens when we go into situations that we are not well prepared for, there's something that happens in our mind. Our emotions and our rational thinking, they sit on an even plane generally. And when they're on an even plane, everything's going well, everything's going the way you expected, you're very comfortable. We can use comedy, we can take the mickey out of each other like Adam's doing to Ashley on a regular basis here. We can get creative, we can be funny, we can be all those things because everything is nice and calm. But as soon as we go into a situation that we're not well prepared for, our emotions start going high. It's, oh my gosh, what's going on here? I don't know. This isn't going the way I want to. And this goes right down to having an argument with your partner or having a discussion, a debate. I'm not winning this debate. They're not listening to me. It's not going right. Our emotions are going high. And at that point, our rational thinking starts going low. And this is when we don't do the smart stuff, we do the dumb stuff. It's not smart thinking, it's silly thinking, it's overwhelm, it's fight and flight, and it's panic mode. And certainly in that moment where I was shot, having never experienced it before, my emotions went high, my rational thinking went low, to the point where I still don't actually remember feeling the bullets hitting me. And initially I didn't even hear the sound of gunfire because my emotions went so high that it just cut it out for me. I fell to the ground and there were 2 bullets that hit my left thigh. And when those 2 bullets hit my left thigh, time slowed down. Those 2 bullets, part of the volley of 18 fired in less than 5 seconds, those 2 bullets seemed to take 30 seconds. But it wasn't painful. I just felt the impact. And the impact was like a sledgehammer driving into my thigh, and then a shockwave went up through my body, and then that shockwave slowly came back down through my body, and then that second bullet smashed into my thigh, shockwave up, shockwave back down again, seemingly 30 seconds. But it's at that point that I said to myself, I've imagined this could have happened. I know what to do in this situation, and I started implementing what I needed to do. So 5 years prior to the shooting, when I first joined Star Group, I sat down with my wife and I said, there's a real possibility that going into this job, I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. If I die, what's your life going to look like? And we discussed what the impact would be for her. But I also said, if I don't die, I need you to know right now that I may spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. If I get a spinal injury as a result of getting shot, I may be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And if that happens, I need you to know that I will find a way to make that good. I'm accepting responsibility for my choice. I'm accepting responsibility for the behaviors that I'm going to have in Star Group. And those behaviors are going to be jumping in and out of helicopters, all the exciting stuff. But there's a real possibility that it may lead me into situations where I could get shot. I'm accepting responsibility for that consequence. I may be shot and injured. I also may have an absolutely sensational time. So consequences are both good and bad. But I was also accepting responsibility at that time for the future afterwards. Okay, I may spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, and if that happens, I will find a way to enjoy it. So I then went away for myself and said, if I do get shot, what's that going to look like? What's that going to feel like? What's going to happen in my body and what's going to happen in my mind? and what would be an absolute perfect response for it. So, and in present day, I would discuss that concept as being the durable. As a durable concept, what would that look like? An absolute perfect response to it. Able to control everything, able to do everything that I needed to do. And that would be a perfect response. And that would be at this end of a continuum. I also imagine what it would be like if I get shot and it is absolute chaos down this end of the continuum. So I was preparing for both scenarios. Most people either prepare for the best and say, well, no, the worst, I don't want to even think about it. Or you get those people who just think of the worst and don't even think that the best is possible. Whereas I was considering both ends. And I also said, if it happens to be down here in chaos, how will I manage that? What will I need to do? And I knew that there were 4 things basically that I needed to do. First one was to control panic, not let panic take control of the situation. I needed to control shock in my body, not let my body be overwhelmed by the situation. I knew I needed to slow down my heart rate and I needed to slow down my breathing, because if I could control those 4 things, it would slow down my rate of bleeding. So at the time I got shot, bang, instantly, emotions high, rational thinking low, my gosh, what's going on? And when I rationalized and realized what was going on, it was kind of like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So the emotions came down a little bit, the rational thinking came up a little bit, didn't get onto an even plane because I'm in a very dire situation here. But the closer we can get that thinking, the more chance we've got of doing what we would be proud of doing, making decisions that we would be proud of making those decisions. And so in that instant, I was absolutely fragile. I had no idea how to manage being shot. Never been there before, but I had thought about it. And Nick, going back to your comment that when things happen to us that we didn't expect, my concept is that when we take on a challenge, whatever that challenge might be, a new job, a new sport, a new relationship, a new business concept, we're not the first people in the world to do this, right? We know what has gone wrong for other people. We know what's gone right for other people. We should have some anticipation that these things, good and bad, may happen for us. It's just that most people don't go, oh, those things have happened to other people, it could happen to me. Most people would say, that worst thing happened to those people, it won't happen to me. I'm the lucky person. Things always go right for me. I don't want to think about it, it's too scary. So we should be able to anticipate that these sorts of things happen. That's the concept that I used. Going into these situations, nobody else in South Australia had been shot in Star Group in the 17-year history, but in other places, in other states, in other countries, people going into these situations had been shot. So I said to myself, there is a possibility it could happen for me, so I need to prepare myself for it. So I actually believe that most things in life we're able to anticipate. Something like the Twin Towers, the planes being flown into them, yep, that's completely out of the blue. That's something that you wouldn't logically think of. But going into the future now, we need to be thinking of those things. If there is a major catastrophe like that, what are our contingency plans? Our emotions are going to go high, rational thinking is going to go low, but if we've got that contingency, I've thought about this, I know what to do, the emotions will come down, the rational thinking will come up, and we're able to implement those things. It's the same as moving from fragile and D-grade tennis to resilient to durable. You know what you're doing. You know what those other players are going to do. When you hit it to that part of the tennis court, you know how they're going to respond, and you're able to stand in the right place and slam it back. It'd be like me playing against, the best tennis player in the world. I can't even, my mind has gone blank for tennis players, but they would absolutely slaughter me because they know what I'm going to do. I don't have the skills that they do. So I would either be fragile or resilient in this tennis game. They would just be laying back and just, oh my gosh, this is so boring, because they are absolutely durable in that space. So, and there's been lots of other times when my marriage broke up, I was absolutely fragile in that situation as well, because that's something that I didn't want. When I got married, I was absolutely 100% committed to that marriage, and I wanted it to last. when it did break up, it destroyed me. I went from having a really good situation all the way back to fragile. It absolutely destroyed me. And then I had to rebuild my life, go back through that resilience, being able to go into relationships again, and then feel very good and comfortable in that relationship. So it applies to every part of our life. We've just got to be forward thinking enough to go, I'm going into this situation. These things have happened to other people. Some people have had great outcomes. Some people have had bad. And some people have been able to solve those problems really well. What were they doing? What can I implement in my life for this challenge? And it's not about expecting ourselves to be the best performer all the time. It is sustainable, optimal performance. Under these circumstances, what's the best I can possibly do? And I'll go into a little bit more about the shooting in a little while, but I'll let you ask a couple of questions.
Derrick, so a quick one for me, Derrick. So do you think, based on what you said, you have to have a sort of like a risk assessment approach to life in the way of, looking at things and saying, well, what's the risk of certain things happening? How can I prepare myself? Because it sounds,
absolutely. And that is exactly it. It is a risk assessment, risk management, risk tolerance type of thing that we need to be able to look at. And when I say risk tolerance, there are a lot of people. My accountant is my favorite person in the world. She does my accounts, but there is no way in the world she could go into Star Group. She doesn't have the risk tolerance for that. It's not part of her world. It's not something that she could do. And she accepts that, and she's an accountant. On the other end of the scale, I love being in Star Group. I could not do accountancy because it's not part of my build, my makeup. I can't do that. And that's why I absolutely love her. She does it for me. So we've got to have that risk tolerance. First of all, is this something I could see myself doing? Is this something I want to do? And if it's not, then we've got to say, no, I'm going to find something else to do. It's the same in our relationships. It's the same in our jobs. It's the same in our businesses, whatever it is we want to do. First of all, we've got to say, is this something I can see myself doing? Am I passionate about it? And then it's the risk assessment within that. Always knowing what's the very best that could happen, but also being aware of what's the worst. Now, the people who say, if I think positively, everything's going to work out positively, let me tell you, it doesn't work that way at all. Okay? Those people who think positively, I completely embrace that because I'm a very positive thinker, but I also embrace that let's consider the worst that can happen as well. And if you're not prepared to deal with the worst outcome that could happen, then you shouldn't be doing that thing that you are considering.
Ursula?
My question is in that post that you commented as when you shared it, because I know that's the one that I added to my profile. So you laid on the ground for 3 hours after you were shot?
Correct.
Where was everybody else? Like, what was happening? Why was it 3 hours? Like, in my mind, the absolute, like, okay, we gotta, like, man down, we need to go save them. Like, what's happening?
Absolutely. And I love the animation you've got there. It's beautiful. That oh my God.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
What? Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. And this is a question that is asked by every audience that I ever speak to. The guys that I was with, you can actually go to my YouTube channel or my website, and you can see the footage of us going to the house. And you can hear the sound of gunfire, and you'll hear me calling out, I'm hit, I'm hit. And the boys respond saying, Derrick's down, Derrick's down. But what happened was when I got shot, they didn't actually immediately realize I got shot, and they've just looked at each other, and you can see it on the video. They just, without saying a word, they look at each other and they go, this is not the place for us. We need to be out of here. And they started moving away from the house. And then I call out, I'm hit, I'm hit. Once they're in motion, the most dangerous thing you can do is stop where you've got no protection. So they went to where they've got protection, and they couldn't get back. Because of stuff the shooter was doing, they couldn't get back. Two of the guys ran in behind a shed and found a little bit of safety there. They knew they weren't protected that they knew they were concealed. If he didn't know they were there, they were absolutely fine. Unfortunately, he did see them going in behind that shed, and he started shooting through the shed. And if you've ever seen the animated cartoons that somebody stands behind something and somebody shoots through it, and they make the perfect outline of the person but don't actually hit them, they said that's what it felt like to them. The bullets came this side, the bullets came that side, the bullets came above them but didn't hit them. So they knew that he had an ability to shoot at them, and they didn't have the ability to get back into me. That sits very comfortably with me. That makes absolute sense, that they looked after their safety, number one, because if they get shot and die, they're not going to be able to get back to me anyway. But they called for backup. This was not the time of mobile phones. We were still working on pages. So it's 30 years ago. So they had to get to a phone, use radios, get back to base, and they called for backup. If you remember, when I first started, I said this happened in the Barossa Valley, which is a fair way out from Adelaide. So we had to call for backup, and the backup had to get there. It took 3 hours to get back up there. But they were only on the ground for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, assessed the situation, made a contingency plan to come in and get me. And at the time they came in, they literally risked their lives. Part of their briefing was, we don't know whether Derrick's dead or alive. We haven't heard from him for 3 hours. You could be going in to pick up a body, not Derrick alive. There's a very real chance you may be shot and injured. You may be shot and killed. Every person there had the opportunity to say, do you know something? This is too dangerous, because the shooter was still shooting. They believed he had a sniper location. He'd been shooting through that shed. They believed that he had full vision around the house. And every one of those guys had the opportunity to say, do you know, this is too dangerous. We should do something else. We should wait. Every one of those guys stepped up to the plate and said, we're going in now. And they built a team around that. By the time they got to me, and they got me to the doctor, I was about 30 seconds from death.
Wow.
Now, there's another moment of fragility. Let me leave this on a high.
I think you're the first to actually have all three of us speechless. You're the first.
The amazing thing is, I speak to audiences all over the world, conferences, run workshops, half-day, 2-day workshops. And there's always a point in my workshops where people are speechless. And it's not just that point, at that point of the story. There are many other things. And sometimes when I pose scenarios to people and say, but in this situation, you should be able to anticipate that these things could happen, I can see people's eyes going, I probably should have. And they're speechless at that point as well. Because when you really think about it, going back to your comments, Nick, when you really think about it, most things, and this is a concept that it takes a moment to get your head around as well, most things you should be able to anticipate. There is a possibility this could happen to me. And if there is a possibility this could happen to me, we should be able to have some expectation it's going to happen and some preparation for it. Now, the concept that's hard is that it will always be a surprise on the day that it happens, at that moment that happens. No two ways about it. Oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming at this moment, but I should have had some anticipation it could have. And so we get that emotional high, that rational thinking low. But, oh, hang on, I knew this could happen. If it does happen, I knew I should be doing X, Y, Z. And the emotions come down and the rational thinking comes back up, and we're able to start taking action. And so we should be able to anticipate most things in life. And that's even going into a relationship and going through divorce, as I have. I didn't see it coming. It hit me as a surprise, but it was always that anticipation. Do you know something? I'm not the first person that's gone through a broken marriage. Other people survive it. I should be able to survive it too. It wasn't something that happened in 10 minutes or half an hour or even in 6 months. but I knew that other people have gone through this. Other people have come out the other side well. What was it they did? How can I learn from it? How can I implement it for myself?
It reminds me of an interview of, I think, Ranulph Fiennes, who was in the SAS and then, explorer and climbed Everest, and he's lost a few toes, in Everest. And there's an interview saying, why do you, put yourself in these really dangerous, life-risking experiences? And, do you feel you could die, any of these, things like Everest? And his response was, you cannot believe how careful I am with risk assessing and preparing and planning, before, to make it as safe as I can. So he said, before Everest, yes, it's incredibly dangerous, but I'll take a year doing everything I can to make it, to reduce the risk of me, losing my life or anything, So he said he doesn't take casual risks. He takes dangerous situations, exciting situations, but he calculates the risk and prepares so carefully. So I guess I thought that was an interesting point, links to what you say, that it's, you can, it's all about, that risk assessing, that whatever, even the most dangerous things like the situation you're in, I suppose it's a mindset or preparation. Because I guess in your job, before you got into that situation, like you said, you had a conversation with your wife. So there's that, and I guess your job, you would have been a certain amount of training to tell you and your other people in your team what to expect in these situations. So is that to try and build up that?
Yeah, absolutely. And most of that comfort with risk comes from either experience. You've been through this before. I know what to expect. I know how to prepare myself. Or it comes from that year of preparation for taking on that massive risk. Okay. And this is the concept of the martial artist who is the master of their craft, the black belt. They know exactly what that newcomer is going to do. They know what exactly the lower belts are going to do, and they're able to relax in that moment because they have put in those years of preparation, those years of gaining experience, so that they can relax in the moment. That guy from the SAS, he wouldn't take on Everest without massive preparation, but if he was to walk up Ben Nevis, he'd do that tomorrow without even thinking about it, because he's got so much experience behind him. If I was to walk up Ben Nevis, I would be doing research. I would be doing all sorts of stuff before I took that on, because I don't have experience in that environment. On the other side of the coin, I'm about to take, and this is a mental health discussion, I'm about to take 100 people onto the Kokoda Trek. The Kokoda Trek is a place where Australians fought the Japanese in Papua New Guinea, and it is the most vile place to have a war. It's wet, it's slippery, it's humid, it's infested with all sorts of leeches and all that sort of stuff. We are going to go there and walk that and relive some of their experiences through discussions, but we don't go there without preparation, right? Everybody who's coming is required to go and get the vaccinations, go and see the doctor, get ECGs, get out and do walking, buy the right equipment, and we will make sure they have all that before they take on those challenges. I can do that without even thinking about it, because I've been in those sorts of environments before. Yep.
We have a question for you off my wife as well. Did you ever go back to your job after you had recovered from being shot?
I did. I certainly did. It took me 2.5 years, 2.5 years of physical rehabilitation to be able to get back to fit enough to be able to get back in there. But I went back into my job, fully operational, no restrictions, back into hostage siege situations, jumping in and out of helicopters. Absolutely went back in there. Now, there's two sides to that in my head. There was the side that when I had that discussion with my wife about I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed, I also said to her, if I get shot and it's not too bad, and I say that in inverted commas, if I get shot and it's not too bad, I need you to know I want to go back into Star Group. That will be my passion. I love doing this job. I will want to go back in there. But if I get shot really bad, I may end up in a wheelchair, as I said before. And so there was always this concept in my mind, but once I was shot, I passionately want to go back into star group. Every doctor that I spoke to said, you will probably be lucky to walk properly again. You may never walk properly again. At first, they thought I may spend the rest of my life using a wheelchair and certainly a walking stick. And so I accepted that. The doctors were predicting this, but I wasn't willing to accept that that was my limitations. I wanted to be able to push myself. Now, initially, I wasn't pushing myself to go back to work. My initial push was just to get back to my kids and be able to interact with them in the best way that I could. I wanted to be able to run, hop, skip, jump with my kids if I possibly could. And that started probably about 10 days after the shooting. I was lying in the hospital bed, hadn't moved from the hospital bed. Everybody's coming and bringing me things, bedpans and all that sort of stuff. And I said to the doctor, when will I be able to start walking again? I was keen, I was eager. But again, going back to the concept you asked me about initially, I was very fragile at the stage, trying to walk with these injuries. But I was keen, I was eager, I wanted to do it. And the doctor said, Derrick, injuries to your legs, particularly the Achilles tendon. I still only had 20% of my Achilles tendon holding together. He said, Derrick, if you start walking now, there's a really good possibility you're going to break your Achilles. And I said, okay, well, what are the indicators that tell me I am able to walk? He said, once you can get your Achilles to a certain point, right, stretched out to a certain point, you'll be able to start walking then. And I said to him, well, I'm already doing that. And he said, oh, okay, I guess you can start walking today. And so I started walking straight away. And I actually walked out of hospital, no wheelchair. I certainly had a walking stick. And I just kept on progressing and progressing. I got back to being able to interact with my kids. And then I kept on progressing again. And that concept of going back to star group was always in the back of my mind. But it was always accepting that as much as I pushed myself, I may not get there. But I wanted to have a crack. And for 2.5 years, I kept on pushing myself. There were highs, there were lows, there were tears, there were failures. But I had a passion that I was chasing.
So my question, and then obviously with you going back, brilliant, because I can tell you've got a lot of resilience in you right now. I can tell that straight up. But did you have anxiety in going back into work? Or did you have like trauma therapy and like support in going back to ease that anxiety?
So this is where
just saying, just get me back in the field.
Well, if I was saying just get me back in the field without doing the preparation, without doing that, same as climbing a mountain, I had to do the preparation mentally to be able to get back in there. And this is where my mental health discussions go into a different realm as well. Going into the shooting, I had that discussion with my wife. And I said, what's going to happen in my mind? What's going to happen in my body? And one of the things that I accepted was that if I get shot afterwards in that future, what's the future going to look like? I had already accepted. There could be nightmares. There could be flashbacks. There could be panic attacks. There could be anxiety. There could be stress. There could be depression. I may never want to go back into that environment again, but I still had a passion. So I'd already discussed those sorts of things with my wife. When I did get shot, I then was taken to hospital, and probably about 6 days after the shooting, threw my hand in the air and said, get me a psych. I want to talk to a psych. Now, remember, this is 30 years ago, right? Real men didn't talk to psychs, didn't have therapy back in the day because that wasn't accepted as a man. If you have to talk to someone about your emotions, that just didn't happen. But I threw my hand in the air and I said, I want to talk to a psych. Now, my concept of talking to the psych was not that I felt like I was going crazy or I had massive issues. I wanted to do exactly as I described before. What can I anticipate is going to happen to me? Other people have been through these major traumas. You've spoken to these people who have been through major traumas. Who's dealt with it well? Who's dealt with it badly? What can I anticipate? What are the signs that tell me it's going well? What are the signs that tell me it's going bad? When I see those signs, what can I do? And because my thinking was already this way, when I went to the psych, I was able to tell them about a couple of experiences I'd already had. He picked my brain, I picked his brain, and he said 3 months after the shooting, my first appointment with him, he said, Derrick, you have no PTSD, you have no anxiety, you have no depression. You are absolutely fine to go back to work tomorrow, psychologically. Physically, I couldn't do it for 2.5 years, but psychologically, I could go back to work the next day. And I've always been that way in regard to the shooting. No PTSD. In fact, what we talk about now is I didn't experience post-traumatic stress. I experienced post-traumatic growth because I anticipated this was a real possibility. I was prepared to be able to deal with it. I did deal with it well, and I came out and I've learned new things about myself, new insights into how I do things well, what my system is. One of the insights into that is in the 3 months prior to seeing the psych, it's not that I didn't have any negative experiences. I had panic attacks. I had nightmares. I had bad dreams. I remember I was in hospital, and it was only about 4 days after the shooting. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was absolute calamity outside my room. There was metal flying absolutely everywhere. It was clanging, it was banging, woke me up out of my sleep, and my instant thought was, somebody's going to come kill me. Somebody's absolutely killing people out there. They're coming to get me. I'm going to get shot. I couldn't do a thing. I was bandaged up. If I even tried to move, I was in pain. So I couldn't get up. I couldn't fight. I couldn't run away. I just lay there waiting to die because this calamity out there was that sign. It was an absolute panic attack. But then after about 5 minutes, I started realizing that there's no shooting, there's no screaming, there's no other noise. And I started thinking, well, what was going on? If this is not somebody's coming in to kill me, what's going on? And I rationalized somebody must have had an accident, dropped. And my thought is, you know, those drip sticks, the poles that sit on the bed and the drips hang on, somebody's dropped a whole heap of them outside my room. And that's what it was. And after 5-10 minutes, I don't know exactly how long it was, my emotions came back down, my rational thinking came back up. And I've just gone, oh, okay, so it was an accident out there. Nobody's coming to kill me. I can relax again and go back to sleep. I didn't berate myself for that. I didn't feel weak because of that. I anticipated that those things are real. They've happened for other people. I'm no Superman. They've happened for me. Okay, let me work out how to deal with this. I had a nightmare, and I call it my pseudo nightmare. And in this nightmare, I had been shot. I went back to work. I knew somebody else wanted to shoot me. And I said to my partner that, and this is my work partner in the dream, I said to my work partner, I'm hiding in shadows. I don't want to get shot again, but this is not living. This is existence. It's not living. It's not enjoying my life. So I need to go out and enjoy my life. And if I do get shot, then I'll have to deal with that. So I walked out of the shadows and got shot in the shoulder. And I was like, bolt upright in bed, woke me out of my sleep. But I forced myself to get, just keep my eyes closed. I forced myself to go back to sleep because I wanted to find out how the dream finished. And I went back into the dream again, found a safe spot, rolled into that spot and woke up. And so I call it my pseudo nightmare. And I was able to talk to the psych and open, honest, confronting, and absolutely transparent with them about all these experiences I've had. And because I didn't berate myself, because I've just gone, yeah, and that's exactly what it was, and I was very comfortable with it, and I turned it into a good night, a good dream, not a nightmare. He said, Derrick, psychologically, you know exactly what's going on. You're very comfortable with the challenges you've taken on, the challenges that might come forward. I had some anticipation of what that journey is going to be like on my way back to Star Group. And so I was well prepared for it. When I went back to Star Group, it wasn't, I'm sick today, I'm back in Star Group, let's go back out into the field and take it on. I went back in through training, and our training is very real training. We use real weapons with a different barrel in, and we use high-tech paintball. And if you've ever played paintball and know what the pain of paintball is, come and play with
Never
us.
played it.
We have if you don't like pain, don't. But we have high-tech pain. And so I'm going back into this environment, facing guns, and I'm absolutely passionate about being in there. Obviously, I knew it was a training environment, but I didn't see a gun and stop and balk. I kept on going through that. We played good guys, we played bad guys. So in one of the trainings where the team knew that I was going to be the bad guy for this training, one of my mates came up next to me and said, "Derrick, you're going to be the offender today, aren't you?" I'm going, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "You reckon you got shot a lot at Newry?" And I've gone, "Well, yes." He said, "We're going to shoot the shit out of you today." And so there was no hiding it, no backing away from it. And they did. They shot the shit out of me that day. But it was going back in through the training. And then when I went into the field, I was in the outer cordon. And then after a couple of jobs, I went to the inner cordon. Then after a couple of jobs, I went into the arrest team. And then after a couple of jobs, I went into the entry team. And it was making an assessment of myself, but also everybody else being able to have that ability to make an assessment of me as well. And this is the 12 months of preparation for climbing Everest. This was taking the time to go through those stages and see what my responses were going to be. And I was always open to the fact that if I balk, if I freeze in the moment, my partner's life is going to be at risk. And there's no way in the world I wanted to do that. My mates obviously wanted to see whether I was going to freeze as well, because that would put their lives at risk as well as my own. But at no stage did I do that. And eventually I went back fully operational, no restrictions, and absolutely loved it again.
Absolutely.
And again, stunned silence.
Derrick, you think you're someone who, because I think everyone wants a bit of variety, a bit of excitement, but most people like the comfort of security, and so getting a balance. But I think, are you someone who naturally, you crave a bit of danger, bit of excitement? This is why you do your job, but also why you wanted to go back in. You know what I mean? It's in your, you to step back and not have that, because it's something you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as I said, we all have our own makeup, and my risk tolerance for this type of risk is very high. My risk tolerance for doing accounting is very low, right? My accountant, she stays awake at night thinking about numbers and really wanting to do that, and that's what gives her excitement. That's what builds her adrenaline. Oh my gosh, I've got this great problem and I've got to solve that. And so when I talk to people, it's not about you have to go out and you have to be taking risks and you have to be jumping out of helicopters to get your excitement. It's about finding your own excitement. What is it that fires you up? And when I run workshops for people, I like to put it into a concept that people can relate their own risks, their own excitement to what I'm going to do. So what I ask people, I have a whiteboard and I have 4 columns on the whiteboard, and I say that I prepared myself for the challenges I knew that I was going to be facing and the changes I knew that I could be facing in my life as a result of the choices that I've made and the circumstances I find myself in. But what I want to do is find out what your challenges are and what are your changes in your life. So I say to people, tell me about what you can anticipate in your life in the next 12 months to 5 years. What sort of challenges and changes can you anticipate? And they talk about, difficulties at work and the difficult boss, difficult colleagues. They talk about aging parents. They talk about having children, newborn children coming along. They talk about the cost of living. They talk about pets dying, children going out and doing drugs and all this sort of stuff. And so we're now looking at their challenges, and the next rest of the conversation is all going to be about the things that they are challenged. I'm going to tell them how I dealt with my challenges, but always put it into the concept of this is the challenges you're facing, so let's look at them. The next column is what are the feelings and emotions you're going to go through when you deal with these challenges and changes in your life. And sometimes it's the first time that people have spoken these feelings and emotions out loud. So it's a little bit tentative. Oh, there's a bit of fear, there's a bit of anxiety. And when other people hear that other people have these fears, anxieties, they then get emboldened and they start telling about their anxieties, their fears, overwhelm, my gosh, I'm absolutely fearful of losing my parents, anger, all these sorts of things. And then somebody will go, but I'm also excited. I'm really looking forward to bringing up my children, having my newborn babies, buying my new house, finance, getting a new job. I'm really excited about that. It's a challenge and a change, but it's one I'm excited about. So we've got to have a look at the good and the bad, the positive and the negative in our emotions and feelings. And it sometimes it's just cathartic for people to be able to speak these things and realize that other people are feeling these sorts of emotions as well. I'm not strange. I then jump to the third column and go straight to the fourth column. So I've done challenges and changes. I've done your feelings and emotions, and I go to the fourth column deliberately. And I say, what are your resources? What are the things that you do to be able to manage these feelings when you go through these challenges and changes? And again, it's sometimes the first time people have spoken these out or heard other people talking about them. And it's, oh, well, I love to get out and exercise. I need to talk to people. I need to talk to my family. I need to talk to my supervisors, get professional help, meditation, music, taking my dog for a walk. Sometimes it's just holding my dog just makes me feel better. All the way through everything you possibly imagine. And eventually somebody will go, alcohol. That's what I do when I get stressed, alcohol. And there's a bit of a nervous laugh through the groups because everybody goes, oh, that's really funny. Oh, should I be laughing at this? And so I love to have a deeper discussion about our use of alcohol because some people don't drink at all, completely embrace that. But most of us will go, oh, it's been a really stressful day. Let's sit down, have a drink and have a chat. And that's perfectly fine. Okay, because it's what we normally do. We need to be able to talk about these things. And it's okay. I've actually got a friendship with a guy who was the Commissioner for Mental Health here in South Australia. And I was doing a tour through our country area. He was in the same area working with different people. And we came together and I went to one of his workshops. And he was having mental health discussions with men at the football club over beers and bites. So they were having a meal and some beers. And I say to people, if it's okay for him to have discussions over alcohol, then it's okay for us as well. But what we need to do now, while we're in a controlled environment and everything's comfortable, let's start discussing what does too much alcohol look like? Because if we can discuss it now, we can identify what that looks like. If we wait until we get to the point of being at that point where I'm drinking too much, and you haven't discussed it beforehand, most people will go into protective mode. No, I've still got this under control. I'm not drinking too much, rather than going, actually, you're right. But if we discuss it now and we identify what it is, when we get to that point, we can say, oh, yeah, I've discussed this before. And back then I did say this was too much. I need to take some action. And it's more comfortable. So, and that goes for chocolate and food as well, because that's the next one that follows on. Oh, when I get stressed, I sit down with the ice cream tub and just eat my ice cream. What does too much ice cream look like? We need to be able to identify that so that when we get there, we go, oh, I'm actually at this point.
Well, thing is, you're already diving into tomorrow's topic, Derrick. And by the way,
oh, damn.
You are. So yeah, it's all right. It's all right. So Ashley, I want to hear from you before we wrap up.
I don't know if there's anything for me to say. Like, this was just
silent. Yes.
Oh, stop it. No, like, this is such a fascinating conversation. Like, your story, and like, I am one that loves like the shoot 'em up kind of crime shows and movies and all of that stuff. So it's like I'm living this, real life kind of experience hearing you talk about it. I mean, not that it's a good thing you were shot, but you know what I mean? It's just like, this fascinates me of the being put in that situation. You made it through, because obviously not everybody does survive that, right? So you made it through, and you were that true resilience. Like, you're not going to tell me that I'm never going to walk again, kind of a thing, but yet having the thought and the reality of this is a possibility. but I'm not going to let that stop me from doing the therapy and getting where I need to be able to play with my kids and possibly come back to work. Like, it's just the like the resilience of the brain, right, is what that proves. Like, you had that ability to remake those connections, to relearn how to walk, all of that stuff. And it just shows how amazing our bodies truly are in their capability. So I got nothing. Like, I got nothing.
Yeah, and thank you, Ashley. And this brings it back to that concept. If you understand what your challenges and changes might be in your life, it doesn't have to be the extremes of Derrick's life and Star Group. Whatever those challenges and changes are, if you have some anticipation of what they are, some idea of the feelings that you're going to go through, and able to access those resources, we can all do it for our own challenges. And our own challenges, and you've got to put this into concept, your challenges are real. They are the biggest thing for you. I talk to 10-year-old kids in schools, and their biggest challenges are dealing with bullying in the schoolyard, being excluded by their friends, not being popular. That is real life. That is to them the same as being shot is to me. It's the biggest thing happening in their life. And if we can prepare well for what we can realistically expect to encounter, we've got more chance of dealing with it well. Oh, my apologies. I didn't cover that third column. That third column is something I come back to at the end of workshops. And I say, what are the indicators that tell you that these feelings and emotions are getting too much and you need to access these resources? And so this is the anticipation. I am starting to drink a little bit too much. I need to cut back. And people are talking about, yeah, I become a pain in the neck to live with because I'm emotional, I'm reactive, I get really angry really quickly, I don't have patience, all these sorts of things. And again, it's sometimes the first time that people have spoken it out, and the first time other people have heard, oh, I'm like that, but you're like that too. So I'm not completely strange. We're more comfortable, but we're also more prepared that when I see that behavior, I need to go and access these resources so I can control the emotions. But it applies to everybody in any part of their life.
So final two questions, and then we're wrapping up because I know we've gone over the mark. One is, with everything that's gone on, what is your mindset like around bonfire night and New Year's Eve and stuff like that with fireworks? Does it bring the memories back, like the trauma? Or are you okay?
No. Bring it on. I absolutely love it. Going back in the environment where there is shooting in our training or whatever it is, I have the normal response that anybody else has. I like to think, and I have some friends that say that I am exactly the same person now as I was before the shooting. That's right. Risk tolerance, personality, all those sorts of things. So it is bring it on. I loved it before. I love it now.
Yeah, and second one is for people that want to connect with you, because I know probably these two do, where can people find you?
Website is the easiest one, derrickmcmanus.com. The spelling's obviously in the notes there. Certainly LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those places, you can find me there. I will just throw out now, I am coming to speak in the UK on the 27th and 28th of October this year, 2025.
Oh, where? Where are you going?
It's actually a private function. It's a management training, and they're bringing me over, and I'm going to open the 2 day of training and then be present during the whole 2 days. But while I'm there, I am open to taking on any other work whatsoever, and I would love to connect with as many people. And whether it's schools, whether it's a hairdresser, because I've worked with hairdressers as well. I work across every segment of society, and I would love to be doing some more work while I'm there. So link up with me, make something happen.
See,
I definitely will
Ashley,
be. Yeah.
Someone can come to the UK. But thank you for
I would love to get
on.
over. I would love to get over to Wisconsin as well.
Good luck.
I've got a cousin by marriage that is actually in our local police department.
Yeah, right. Love to get over there.
I'll definitely be in touch, Derrick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes.
And actually, just mentioning police, I have a philosophy which really stuns some people. I don't charge police for my work that I do. Corporates, everybody else, they pay, going rates. But I only stand on this earth because of what coppers did for me, what police did for me. And it's my opportunity to give back. I've never charged police. And as far as I can work, I will never have police pay to attend my sessions. They will pay for my accommodation and my meals and travel and all those sorts of things. But I don't charge for the sessions. And if I'm coming to the US, I wouldn't be charging police over there as well, and in the UK as well. It's just my philosophy. We need to build up that recognition and payback and camaraderie within the police.
Are you or have you written the book, Derrick?
I am 80% into the book. I've been there for a little while. It's sitting in abeyance at the moment. But the book of the story is the first one that's going to come out. And as soon as I finish that, then it's going to be the book of human durability, the sustained optimal performance. As I say, I run 2-day workshops on it. So the concepts are all there.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for coming on. Thanks for all the comments as well. Please do subscribe, share if you haven't already. We're back tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK, so an hour earlier, discussing trauma and addiction into wine. So, yeah, so that's going to be a trigger warning. But other than that, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Ashley, Adam, and Nick. It's been a great discussion. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'll be in touch, Derrick.
I look forward to it. Thanks.